I want to get into the RFK MMR story because we've been covering this as it's developed from the time that RFK was officially given. He got through the Senate hearings. He made it through, and people were saying, "Oh, he had to say what he had to say to get in," but now he's officially the head of Health and Human Services. And then we saw a whole chain of him kind of having these. Let me get off of the topics and start talking about anti-Semitism as the biggest health crisis. So we've been covering this. And then the MMR he had pulled up a little bit ago, I think it was last month. His language, I know we covered this part. So this was from March 2nd. Yeah, I got this from March 2nd. This is where some of the stuff he was saying seemed a little off. Like, okay, but he did say, if you see, this is important. The decision to vaccinate is a personal one. So even with all his like, okay, we got to look at this, we got to look at that, the vaccine thing, he's not saying anything bad about it, but we're saying, okay, but at least he's not pushing mandates. Okay. So we keep giving this guy excuses. We keep saying, oh, he's got to say what he's got to say. That's kind of been the running theme, Jay. And I'm not self-bashing us. I'm saying that we have to leave every option open. That's kind of our job. We say, here's what we're looking at. Here are all the things it could be. And then when a thing is not possible anymore, we check it off the list. But could he still be saying what he has to say? Is he captured? All these questions. But then this was 2 days ago. He puts this out. And this is where it's a little harder. It's a little bit harder now for us to make excuses for him. Talking about these two girls that died in Texas, not being honest about why they died. And then you have this highlighted part on the right here, guys. The most effective way to prevent the spread of measles is the MMR vaccine. How can you maneuver this? What is the? I don't understand, Jay. What is it? Can you give me your take when you saw this tweet from Secretary Kennedy? What the hell is he up to here? What's going on?
Yeah. So if you look at the words he chose there, he said that the vaccine is the most effective way to prevent the spread. That is actually accurate. It does stop the spread more. However, what my biggest problem with his tweet is he's not saying at what cost, and he's not saying how deadly is measles in a well-nourished population. So if you look at all the factors that we know about the measles, before the measles vaccine was introduced, the deaths per like I guess the death rate for the measles the case fatality rate for measles was less than 1 in 100,000. That means out of every 100,000 people that got the measles, less than one would die before the vaccine. So measles was going around, but it wasn't killing people that often. It does kill some people who have weak immune systems and other things going on, but for the most part, it's like a negligible thing that's going to pass. So what my biggest issue with Kennedy has been so far is I literally just finished reading his book, Vax, Unvax, and there's all this data. There's over 100 studies that have been cited within this book telling people that there are long-term unintended consequences that are likely happening with a lot of these vaccines that are being given out. Why is it that he's not even starting a conversation about why he wants to do these studies? Because he has also said that he's going to be studying, any possible links between vaccines and autism, but he hasn't given us a reason why. Like the Democrats just finished, funding a study about menstrual periods in men. I'm sorry, in transgender women and all that, but they didn't tell us why, right? So
No.
if you're going to fund that study, tell me why. And if you're a Democrat and you're looking at RFK funding a study into what's going on between vaccines and autism, you should be telling them why. You should be having a public conversation right now about possibilities. And I'm not saying that RFK needs to come in and say, everything you guys are doing is wrong. I disagree with everything. I'm stopping all of it right now. I'm not saying he has to do that. But what he should do is come in and say, hey, guys, here's why I've been saying all the things that I've been saying like over the past few years. Now, I'm open to being wrong. So, what I'm going to do is start a public conversation, and we're going to fund the studies into these items so we can get to the bottom of it. But in the meantime, here is what led me to write a book about this and to do all these public interviews saying there's a link between vaccines and autism. So, he's not really doing any of that
No.
right now. And that's why I'm personally scared. I think, it's reason. I think we always need to put pressure on whoever's in power. So I'm glad we're doing this segment. But I wouldn't say I'm ready to give up on him yet, but he should still feel the pressure because on the positive side, the current head of vaccine approvals in the CDC did just resign. And he resigned because apparently RFK had asked him for side effects on the
Yes.
MMR vaccine. So there are positive things that are happening. And Jay Bhattacharya, who's the new head of the NIH, has already been tasked, like with starting the studies on some of this stuff. So there's some positive stuff happening. There's some negative stuff happening. But what scares me the most is the way his tone has changed
Yes.
publicly, and he won't have a public conversation right now. And to be honest with you, the most dangerous shot of them all, which is directly responsible for a sky high increased death rate over the past few years, the mRNA shots. I haven't heard him utter the words mRNA
No.
since he took office, and I think we have more than enough evidence right now to pull those shots off the market. So, like, I don't know what's going on there, and
We
I'm
know what's
saying
going
maybe
on.
there's reason for some hope, but like I don't want to just write the man off completely, and we do need to continue applying pressure because pull the shots, man. Pull the COVID shots.
It's
You
not
don't
going
got
to
to
happen.
pull the whole schedule, but pull the
Jay,
COVID shots.
Jay, it's not going to happen as long as Larry Ellison
Mm,
is doing this multi-billion-dollar deal with Trump
mm,
and his mRNA AI project. Even if it, I mean, even we heard people say that it wasn't going to get off the ground. It doesn't matter. That's the investment's there. That's there.
mhm.
That's locked. Whether it's going to be successful or not, it's a different conversation. But Trump is not going to allow, not with that investment going. How can you have an investment in this technology with the taxpayers' money, with Larry Ellison, and at the same time have your guy at the HHS be looking to get it off the market because it's dangerous and it hurts people? You can't do
And
both at the same time.
exactly. And he's like putting his branding behind it too. Because remember now, Matt, he says he wants to launch a sovereign wealth fund, and he wants the sovereign wealth fund to invest in the mRNA shots that are going to solve the problems that other mRNA shots like have already created. So, but at the same time, I'm not hearing them talk about funding more studies into generic medications that might help with some of these diseases. And I'm not hearing them talk about investing more money in some natural remedies that could be solving some of these problems. So
Yeah.
it's like, why is it all of the attention is now on the failed technology that we know, like at best, it hasn't stopped the spread of COVID? Like that's the best case scenario. But in reality, what's happening is not only has it not stopped the spread of COVID, but it's also had dramatic side effects, has ended people's lives and disabled countless others, and has changed the standard of living, for millions of people across the world.
Yeah, across the world. This isn't just here. This is the
Mhm,
entire planet. So it's like so much is writing on this because we're
mhm,
supposed to be the front runners here. We're supposed to be the ones doing these types of investigations. We have the means to. That's the thing. We have every tool is there. But the
mhm.
reason that, and you mentioned about the FDA blocking, now I'm going to put that up because it's important people not to see this. This is important. But we kind of predicted that this was going to be happening. I just thought more behind the scenes, but now that the Hill reported on this, the former top vaccine regulator says he blocked RFK Jr.'s team from database. So he's admitting this out loud. This was yesterday. He's admitting this. This is the um tweet, yeah, the FDA's top vaccine regulator. So this is Dr. Peter Marks He just resigned, right? And so in the resigning over RFK Jr.'s attempts to revive the MMR vaccine safety study, so he had to, for whatever reason, he's out. He is admitting publicly, right here, here's the quote: Kennedy's team requested data on cases of brain swelling and deaths caused by MMR vaccines. So we can call this a little win because the guy's gone. But I'm telling you, Jay, we predicted this. We've had this discussion. We said that Kennedy was going to be in this position of power, but it's not really that powerful. What's he doing? He assigns teams. He says, you go in there and you do this study. You report back to me. And then they go in, they go, oh, well, we're getting blocked. We can't do it. We'll report back. How's it going? I sent you guys on this thing like 6 weeks ago. How's it going? Well, we're still working on it. We're still working. We'll go back to it. That's what we were going to see. We knew that. We didn't know that somebody was going to come out and say, we're literally blocking, but we knew the blocking was going to occur. So good, the guy's out, but who's replacing him?
That's what I was going to say.
The next guy that's going to be blocking him. So this is an ongoing thing. 4 years of this. This is what we're going to be seeing. I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer here, Jay. I'm just saying there's no reason that this is going to be changed. This is just one guy out, the next guy in, more blocking. He can't actually say the thing. He can't.
Let's see. Maybe he can find someone who's honest. I mean, I personally find it so hard to believe that the boss cannot get information about what's happening in his department from his employees. So if RFK is not able to get this information, then it's just yet another sign that this system of government we have just doesn't work. How can the boss not be able to get the information on what's happening within his own department?
Because he can't get it because he's tweeting this stuff out on his Secretary Kennedy thing, saying the most effective way to prevent the spread of measles is MMR vaccine. And I want to throw this friend of the show, Patrick Henningsen, says, I really hate to say it, but I told you so. He really caved to Big Pharma. Unbelievable reversal. And this is a quote. This is it. Right, we took it right out of the thing. So there you go. It's a complete reversal.
Well, I mean, in his defense, that quote is actually accurate. It is the most effective way to prevent the spread. The question is, at what cost? Like the spread of something that's benign and not going to kill most of the people it impacts. Yes, that may be true. But then it's causing chronic disease and chronic problems. And instead of it being a measles virus you would have had to deal with, which would make you sick for a week or two and then you'd recover, now you have lifetime chronic illnesses that Big Pharma gets to profit off of, like that people have to deal with on a wider scale. So it's at what cost? And it's like he leaves out all of that context. So it's like, that is lying by omission. So, I want to be as kind as I possibly can to him and think he's trying to walk some line. But like at the end of the day, he is lying by omission. So, we got to call him out. We got to apply the pressure and acknowledge that I could be 100% wrong and you could be 100% right. And he could be just stringing us along this whole time. But, at the end of the day, the conversation is better now than it was when Fauci, was in office. That's one positive I can say.
Yeah, but the conversation is better because there's more of us now. We had to be very careful, and we were the ones that were like just cautious and like the vax rollout and everybody. We had to be really careful.
And RFK was a voice in that. He was on that disinformation dozen list. And I remember watching an interview with him early on. He called the whole pandemic, man. And like in May of 2020, he said everything that was going to happen. I couldn't believe that interview when I saw it.
Yeah. Well, then can you tell me why, you said that his tweet was actually accurate about preventing a spread, but why is Children Health Defense tweeting this out? No. The MMR vaccine isn't safe. So this is also true. But this is the lying by omission.
That's the omission.
It comes with potentially fatal and life-altering adverse reactions, but you weren't told about those, were you? Jay, your best guess on this is he still running this account, or is this a pushback from his the people he left to go
I don't
to
think he
this
needs
other
to.
account?
I don't think he needs to, because I think the Children's Health Defense is an honest organization, in my opinion, that's been set up, and he had a big hand in it. Did he do everything by himself? No, he didn't.
No.
But
Yeah.
like, he had a big hand in it. I believe he was the founder of it. So, like right now, if it isn't effective without him being there, then he completely failed. Like like if they just automatically adopt every position he has when he moves on, then it's completely failed. And I'm glad to see that it hasn't. So at the end of the day, yes, he's lying by omission now because he's in office, but he also founded this organization that is willing to go on record and add the proper context to what he's saying. So, he lied by omission. His organization came in and added some of the context that was missing, like from the statements he made. And maybe, that's the price Kennedy had to pay to be able to get into that position, to toe the line with Big Pharma. But, at the end of the day, it's still disappointing because this does have real life consequences. Like, how many MAGA voters who truly believe that Trump is telling everyone the truth, and he's only appointing people who are telling everyone the truth, are now taking Kennedy's advice because he's going out there and saying this stuff. So, at the end of the day, everyone doesn't have the amount of time that you and I have to dive into these topics. People are working 2 jobs. They got families they got to take care of. They just get little snippets here and there of what's going on. And if the people you trust are lying to you, I think we got to call that out. So even if he has good intentions and he's making moves behind the scenes, this does have real life consequences right now. Like, there may be people who take these vaccines and get autism now that they have to deal with for the rest of their life, because the Secretary of Health told them that it's the best way to prevent the spread of a benign, virus. So mostly,
if they did get autism after getting the shots, it would obviously be a coincidence and completely unrelated.
100%.
As we know here on the Homeless Left, there is no relationship there at all. Others might report differently, and it would be our job to report that other people are reporting differently, because we wouldn't be honest journalists if we didn't do that. But we know there's no relationship
and really quick, I don't think that's the only cause of it. I'm not saying that autism is only ever caused by this thing. I think there are multiple factors, and the MMR shot is just one shot. Like, the vaccine schedule has 72 shots on it like right now, and many of those have a derivative of mercury in it called thimerosal. So it's like, I'm not saying this one thing is doing it. I'm saying in totality, the vaccine schedule is probably having an impact. Well, that's what a conspiracy theorist would say anyway. I'm not saying that.
Yeah, you're not saying it.
That's what a conspiracy theorist would say.
Well, we can end this segment on a higher note, because we do have this interview. I was trying to find the date of this. This is Michael Knowles that interviews RFK Jr. And I think it's important we at least hear this. Do you know the timestamp on this one? I couldn't find, because sometimes people will. Is this after? I guess I'm trying to figure out if this is after the tweet. But either way, let's watch it and then let's figure out.
No, it's before the tweet. It was before the tweet. I want to say this is probably about a month ago.
But we're seeing language changing from a month ago. We're seeing a month ago being like, hey, make the best decision for your family, for you. We're seeing a targeted approach, not a blanket approach. So that's where we're shifting. But yes, he's been the Health and Human Services president. He's the head of it. So he's the secretary when he's in this interview. So let's hear what he's saying to Michael Knowles. At least we can end with somewhat of a higher note on this doom and gloom segment we're doing on RFK Jr.
The question that you've been asked throughout your confirmation hearings, of course, was about the public's, I think, justifiable concern with the growth of vaccines. And the senators asked you enough questions about that I don't think you need to rehash a lot of it. But for the people who are asking questions about whether or not they'll vaccinate their kids or whether they should vaccinate their kids, will anything change about vaccine policy?
Yeah, everything's going to change because we're going to have good information. And, none of the vaccines that are given, but people said to me during the hearing, oh, well, this link between autism and vaccines has been disproven. None of the vaccines that are given during the first 6 months of life have ever been tested for autism. The only one was the DTP vaccine, and that one study that was done, according to the Institute of Medicine, the National Academy of Sciences, found that there was a link. They threw out that study because it was based upon CDC's surveillance system, VAERS, and they said that system is no good. I think it begs the question is, why doesn't CDC have a functional surveillance system? We're going to make sure they do have a functional surveillance system. Right now, the surveillance system is the system that, because they don't do pre-licensing safety testing for vaccines, they're the only product that's exempt. So what they say is, if there are injuries, we'll capture them afterward. But they have a system that doesn't capture them. In fact, CDC's own study of its own system said it captures fewer than 1% of vaccine injuries. It's worthless. And everybody agrees it's worthless. But why have we gone for 39 years and nobody's fixed it?
Without a functional system, right.
We're going to fix it, and we have, we have DOJ, knows how to manage data. And so we're going to be able to get into these databases and give answers to the American public. And we're going to fix the problems. If there are problems, we're going to fix them very quickly, but we're going to follow the science. That's what we're going to do. We're going to have gold standard science, and we're going to follow the science. We're going to publish all of our data sets, which CDC has never done. We're going to do replication of all of our studies, which CDC has never done. We're going to publish our peer review, which CDC has never done. So people are going to have real answers for the first time.
We're going to follow the science. That's this never said before. Oh wait, no, we have heard that before. Oh, Jay, you're on mute there. Okay, yeah, we have heard that before. Who was the guy that said that before RFK? What was it? Follow the science. Was that Fauci? Did he say that first? I don't know. It sounded pretty cool when RFK just said it, but I don't know. Is he reusing material from his?
The issue is science can be manipulated. Like you can find reasons to disqualify people who suffer side effects. So it's like, we have to be given the proper context. And so far, I'm not seeing that I'm seeing a lot of mixed messages, and a lot of his tweets have not given the full context. So hopefully that changes. Once he has more of his people in place, at the end of the day, we're only 2 months in since he got appointed right now. So, but there's some bad signs right now. So let's see what happens.